President Bola Tinubu has asked the Supreme Court to dismiss the suit filed by some states controlled by People's Democratic Party governors challenging his suspension of all the elected officials of Rivers State under an emergency rule. Recall that Tinubu on 18 March declared the state of emergency and suspended Governor Similaye Fubara, his deputy Ngozi Odu, and all state lawmakers. The president immediately appointed Ebok Eteyebas as the sole administrator of the oil-rich state. Act by the suspension of Governor Fubara and other elected officials in the state, the 11 states filed the suit to challenge the president's action. They include Adamawa State, Akwa Ibom State, Bauchi State, Bayelsa State, and Delta State. The rest are Enugu State, Osun State, Oyo State, Plateau, Taraba, and Zamfara State. The plaintiffs sued him through the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, the first defendant. The National Assembly, given its role of swiftly approving the state of emergency, including the suspension of Governor Fubara and others, was sued as the second defendant. A notice of preliminary objection filed on May 9 by the Attorney General of the Federation to defend the president's action challenged the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to entertain the suits. Obtained by press on Saturday, the filing asked the court to dismiss the suit on the grounds that the suit did not fit into the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, which under Section 232 subsection 1 of the Nigerian Constitution is exercisable only in a dispute between the Federation of Nigeria and a state or between states. The Attorney General claimed the plaintiffs, the states in this instance, have not disclosed any dispute between them and the Federation and did not also disclose any cause of action, citing previous court judgments. Mr. Fagbemi, a senior advocate of Nigeria, argued that the suit is abuse of court process and maintained that the plaintiffs have no locus standi to institute the suit, which he described as hypothetical, academic, and speculative. Taye Hussein Oloyede, the Special Assistant to the President on Arbitration, Drafting and Regulations, defended Mr. Tinubu's action in an affidavit he swore to and filed in support of the preliminary objection. He stated that the feud between the now suspended governor and the state lawmakers, and as well as the attacks on oil facilities in the state, were justifiable reasons for the declaration. He argued that the political crisis and attacks on oil facilities amounted to breakdown of law and public safety, which necessitated the president's declaration and suspension of Mr. Fubara and others. The presidential aide also defended the National Assembly's approval of the emergency rule, stressing that they have reserved the constitutional power to only approve or reject the declaration. He rejected the governor's argument on the lawmakers' use of voice votes, arguing that the Constitution did not stipulate that the resolution of 2/3 majority shall be by physical counting of votes by each house of the National Assembly. Ms. Oloyede claims that the governors instituted the suit because they were driven into panic mode by their own imaginary fears that Mr. Tinubu could declare a state of emergency in their states in the future. The Supreme Court has yet to fix a date for the hearing of the suit. Ugochukwu, interesting arguments back and forth. This is quite interesting, but then I want to know, what do you make of this story? What do you make of this development?
Yeah, Laurentia, is very funny and it's very, very absurd that this is where we find ourselves in Nigeria. Before I started, I made mention of the state of affairs, the state of the economy in Nigeria. When you ask me whether I'm speaking from the line of sarcasm or I'm being real, but then this morning I saw that the routes in Nigeria is empty, because what happens in Port Harcourt here, we are not oblivious of, we are not isolated from the rest of Nigerians. And the governors of PDP, 11 states, now 10 states, because it's also on notice that the governor of Delta State has already, through the Attorney General of his state, has withdrawn his support for the lawsuit filed by PDP Governor Forum. Hence, he is no longer in that ship. So they are now 10. And that 10, you will also know that Eno of Akwa Ibom State is neither here nor there.
He has declared support for the president's administration.
For the present administration, and also his support for 2027. So we don't know the weight of the action they have filed and the prayers they have taken to the Supreme Court. But as Fagbemi said, this is speculative because a precedence of such litigation or action have not been had in Nigeria, and this speculative, the prayers they are making at the Supreme Court is very speculative because PDP governors brought it upon themselves because they had more than 1 year, Laurentia, to really nip the crisis in PDP between the FCT minister and his successor, Seminary Fubara, now suspended, in the board. They had the latitude of time, but what they did, they quickly took sides. Even at a time, you recall that Sheyi Makinde of Osho State, or for your state, who hitherto was a kitchen member of the FCT minister's G5, almost deserted the FCT minister and was seeking refuge when he was repositioning himself or positioning himself to vie for the presidential election. And when he stepped into the forum of PDP, he saw that Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State has become an anathema unto himself. So he quickly made a U-turn, you know. So they brought it upon themselves by not doing the needful. This is a political crisis. It's a political misunderstanding and disagreement, which they, as what I call the traditional Nigerian politicians, would have rallied around Fubara, who is a neophyte in the political system in Nigeria, to tell him the steps to take for his own good and for the betterment of his manifestos and whatever he had as a template to be delivered to the Rivers people. But what did they do? They took sides until today. We also know that anytime it is mentioned that there will be a truce between Wike and Fubara, Wike always look at the faces of the people that are coming to mediate. It is only those that have been hitherto neutral, or those that have not spoken at all about this particular impasse between him and Fubara, that are having the locus to go and meet Wike. You recall, blessed be his memory, the late Pandef chairman, late Pa Edwin Clark, quickly took sides. The former governor of Rivers State, Isiada George, quickly took sides. I don't even hear about Peter Odele now. I don't know whether he had disappeared as the name of Joseph disappeared immediately. The child Jesus was discovered in the temple at the age of 12. We didn't hear about Joseph again.
The ex-governor yes. he has been vocal in Rivers State crisis.
Prior to the declaration of state of emergency, yes, that's where I'm coming from. Right. Because he took side. We are talking about those who could have mediated, who could have been very neutral and played the fatherly role of bringing about these two young men to a round table and speak. But why it snowballed into what we saw that led Mr. President to declare state of emergency is because those who could have spoken, they took sides because of pecuniary gain, because of stomach infrastructure or appetite, as I call it, in the political space in Nigeria. And those who were political enemies to Nyesom Wike quickly saw a loophole and they fenced off Seminary Fubara not to see clearly. And the PDP governors that we're talking about now did not help their brother governor. The truth to be told, they quickly took sides and knowing what it takes to fight, because Bala Mohammed, Sheyi Makinde are two-time governors that know what it takes and how they were brought to power, and know that it is not a mean feat for somebody to become a governor in Nigeria, whether you like it or yes. A lot of waters we pass under the bridge. So that is why I'm saying that the blame, the most chunk of the blame, should go to the governors of PDP who did not help their brother governor, especially Makinde and Bala, who are two-term governors who know what it takes, who have been the people who would have championed this peace move, but they now allowed it to snowball. Makinde didn't know whether he was going to align with Wike or whether he was going to align with Fubara, so he found himself at sea. But if you are known to be a peacemaker, you can speak to both sides without really, showing where your allegiance lies. Because for sure, I didn't even know the face with which Sheikh Makinde would have spoken to Fubara, and he will think he is not, aligning to Wike. And now he himself did not know how to go and tell his boss, Wike, to Melembe, as we say in River State. So it was something that people would have used diplomacy and the politics to solve that problem. But what happened? It snowballed into even when Mr. President came with the 8-point resolution, all of them went quickly to tell Fubara that you are the governor. You have the red biro. It is from Fubara that I knew governors use red biro. I only know that the Pope uses red biro in signing some of the church documents. But I didn't know the governors do that. Fubara capitalized on red biro, not knowing that Nigeria, that you're a governor, you're a president. That's what makes me proud to be a Nigerian, Laurentia, to tell you the truth. Look at what is happening in Togo. Somebody in Yadema Yasimbe is already going for the 50th term. I mean, for his family is ruling Togo for 50 years. The father ruled for 4 decades, and he wants to now elongate his own tenure. But Nigeria is not like that. That you're a president, people came together and make you the president. The truth be told, you're a governor, some big ways are behind you. So Fubara took that. I don't know what his brother governors were telling him, because River State became an extension of Bauchi State. Somebody that is like Ugochi, the extension of his constituency became the bricks house in River State. So most of them, goofed and fenced off Fubara, not telling him the truth, that the red biro, the rug can be pulled off your feet. It was when the rug was pulled off that all of them, it dawned on them that you are a governor does not mean that you are the Alpha and Omega. So, but what the spokesperson to the Fabemi was saying about
Fabemi is the AGF.
AGF, but the second person that spoke about the clarity in letting the governors know the weight of the National Assembly weighing in.
Hussein Oloyede.
Oloyede weighing in. It's neither here nor there, because the president consulted the security chiefs and the AGF before declaration of that emergency. And in River State, some people are still peddling the rumor that those that are not acquainted with the letters of the Constitution, that the Mr. President should have gone to the Assembly first to obtain permission before. No, it's not done like that. Mr. President have seen that there is peace and harmony in River State has been endangered. So he quickly declared a state of emergency, and they returned back to the National Assembly to cap it up. Then another leg to it is this, that the AGF is the person that is representing the federal government, and whatever mandate that Mr. President is standing by is what he's going to take to the Supreme Court to defend the actions of the Mr. President. So PDP governors brought it upon themselves. And for somebody in Nigeria as fragile as the Nigerian nature, saying that the crisis in River State, Laurentia, did not, elicit for Mr. President to declare a state of emergency, I say is a lie. Because a political internal wrangling among the two main arms of government is is more critical than when you have people shooting gun. Because if
one would take exception to that, because the internal wrangling between the two parties have not in any way, you know, one would say, when you say it is more critical than shooting of guns, in states where there are actual shooting of guns, right, beheading of people, herdsmen attacks on farmers, those states, to a large extent, their economy has been crippled to a large extent. Part of the reason why Nigeria is suffering food scarcity is because the farmlands are no longer safe.
I agree with you.
The northern part of the country, where food comes from, the northern part of the country that is heavily into agriculture, is under very serious security threats. So when you say political wrangling in a state, it's more critical than, you know, shooting. One would say, at what point in Nigeria do we begin to value human lives? One life matters. One life represents a generation. So at what point do we begin to value human lives, that we place politics higher in the scale of need? Politics comes before security. Make sense to me. But that's on one hand. Very quickly, before we move on to the next story, I want to look at some of the things that both Oloyede and Fabemi pinpointed. First of all, Fabemi is saying that the PDP governors lack the locus standi to approach the Supreme Court, and they questioned the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to, you know, interface in this matter. And one is saying that they lack the locus standi because in this instance, the federal government does not have any problem with these states.
The states that are now litigating.
The federal government does not have any problem with these states, and so far these states have not, in the suits that they filed, they have not stated clearly what the issue is
within their states,
between them
and the federal
government. So I mean, now the Supreme Court is expected to, you know, entertain matters between federal government and states, or between states and states. But in this instance,
there is no disagreement or any infraction.
Does federal government have issues with Zamfara State?
No.
Does the federal government have issue with Cross River?
That is the answer.
Does the federal government, and the only state in this instance that the federal government has issue with
is Rivers,
which is Rivers State, is absent in this suit.
Yes.
Ordinarily, it would have been the Rivers State filing against the federal government, and then these other states will now, you know, file a joinder to the matter. But in this instance, what's the local standard for the prosecution? You
know, let me take it from the first one. Why I say that political crisis impedes development. That's why I didn't mention ordinary political crisis. I mentioned that it is the two main arms of government, the executive and the legislature, which makes the law, which are those that the executive, you know, the executive are the ones that initiates the laws, or the government initiative that will help in moving the state forward, and they move it to the State House of Assembly for approval. So when two of them has been engulfed in disagreement and crisis that are at each other's jugular, so it will tell you that it is more dominant to the state development. And even when you talk about those states that have security challenges, it behoves on the state government and the State House of Assembly to come together to forge a way forward, to fashion a way to tackle that particular problem that is coming. Even when they are looking for help from the federal government, they are to speak with one tone. And believe you me, some of the infrastructure developments in those states are not suffering because governance is smoothly selling. Governance is smoothly selling because there is this harmony between the state executive and the legislative arm.
All right,
but when you now talk about Rivers State, I can tell you for free that a lot of things suffered that even cumulated in now what we call some parties being for and against the governor. Assembly.
I'm picking on your statement.
Yeah,
when you put political crisis, you give it priority to actual security crisis that is taking lives.
No, taking lives. Yes, I acknowledge that.
To a large extent.
But in Rivers
political
State,
crisis can be resolved.
Of course.
When a life is gone, it can't be brought back.
But even when there are crises in some states, it is also through a collective political will that you are going to plan how to tackle it. But when these two government institutions are at each other's throat, at loggerheads, how do they come together to fashion a way to now fight the security crisis?
Moving on to the local standard of the governors.
Yeah,
filing this case, I've actually had a seasoned lawyer on my show, and I asked the same questions to date, because I mean, for me, looking at Supreme Court jurisdiction, for me, the major, both of them are technicalities that are strong, arguably very strong. But then the local standard is the one I'm so interested in.
Okay.
Do they have it?
Yeah, if I may say they have it or not, depends on the governors forum, all those governors forums we are hearing in Nigeria. Northern Governors Forum, Western Governors Forum, Southern Governors Forum, South Governors Forum, and now you have Party Governors Forum. I wonder where OT will be forming his own, who is a lone ranger. If you let's put it in that way. I don't know where he will belong, whether him and Soludo can form a minority governors forum. But this is PDP government. Is he registered with the CAC, or is he recognized by the Constitution? If it's not, they don't have the local standard. But if they are registered with the CAC, that means they are recognized in the Nigerian constitutional setting that empowers Nigeria to recognize some entities and associations. If they have that, then you could say yes, they have a local standard. Then if it is about their brother governor, who is now a member of that forum that is registered, they have a local standard. But if they don't have those registrations that could make them have that standing in the Nigerian setting, then they don't have the local standard. You could see some things that happened, that some organization in Rivers State went to the court, and when they, or is it in the Natasha's case, those that were calling for her recall, when they went to CAC, they couldn't find out those names registered. That means the court threw away, or INEC jettisoned that particular case they were pursuing. So the Governors Forum and the PDP Governors Forum, I don't know where they stand, if there is anything like that they have. But to have removed Rivers State, the governor of Rivers State, in all these people who are fighting for him, I have not seen his name appear. He seems to have resigned to fate. But those governors, if it's from what the AGF Fabemi is saying, they stand no chance in challenging it, because the federal government and the president have no problems with them. And the person whom they are even pursuing his case was missing in the action. So I wonder why they are dying in another man's case. Like our people will say, you cry more than they bereave, and the owners of the dead body will sit by and be saying, what is after all this man's interest? So it's neither here nor there. But I know that with those technicalities, that the case will not see the light of the day, given that the president declared the state of emergency, citing from like what Oloyede have said, the security problems were already in our faces, staring us in the faces. It was setting on the faces, and also the National Assembly has also given voice to the declaration of the state of emergency. So at the end of the day, Lonesia, it will not see the light of the day.